Good morning, dear brothers and sisters. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to this edition of our program, The Joy of Consecrated Life. We thank God for giving us the opportunity to see another Sunday, and I'm sure we are all back from Mass. In our program today, as we promised in our last edition, for the past weeks now, we've been following the different spiritualities in the Catholic Church as far as the consecrated life is concerned. And today we have a new package of another kind of spirituality that we have in the Catholic Church. Today, dear brothers and sisters, we'll be talking about the spirituality of the little way. And I have got seasoned hands to talk about this program, to handle this particular topic. And that's why it's very, very important for you to sit tight in front of your television and listen to what this spirituality of the little way is all about. With me in the studio today to handle this topic is no other person than Sister Clarice Remjikar. Sister is not like any other person. She's a woman who holds authority. She's a woman with a lot of feathers in her cap. But most importantly, she is a counselor, general counselor in her congregation. So you know how sound she'll be able to handle this topic. But I'll not say further. At the end of the day, you will judge for yourself why we have to bring a sound mind like Sister Clarice to this program. Sister Clarice, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Sister Florence, and I am delighted to be here to share on the spirituality that is lived by the Sisters of St. Therese of the Child Jesus of Boya.
Yeah. With me in the studio is maybe another face you may have been seeing, but not in this program, The Joy of Consecrated Life. Well, for some reason, she may be saying some of the things she has said it, but in this context, she's going to talking about another aspect of this spirituality. And that person is Sister Krista Monique Forban. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Sister.
Sister, as I told you, we selected sound minds. She's not just a sister. She is aspirant mistress. So you may have heard one time here that there are stages in religious life. So the very, very first stage, you will have to pass through her hands. She will have to decide for her congregation whether you are fit or not. So look at her very well so that when you meet her, you know exactly how to carry yourself. That's Sister Forban we're talking about here. Another sound mind whom we have in this program is Sister Christabel Tanifo. Sister Christabel is not a journalist, so you'll be surprised. You think that it's only journalists who are come on television. Sister is a nurse in Mount Mary. So maybe after this program, if you are sick and you go there, just ask for Sister Christabel. Maybe things will work out for you better. Sister Christabel, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Sister.
I told you at the very beginning that we're going to look at the spirituality of the little way. And before we get the sisters to unfold this program, I want to give you time to pick up a piece of paper and pen. Stay tight in front of your television, because I know after this program you want to ask questions. You direct them and I'll get them back to the studio to come and answer. I don't know what they're going to be talking about. So you will ask the questions and I will direct them. So we'll ask you to do that while we have this musical break.
Stand together for what you believe. Work for what must be done.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are here in this program on this Sunday to talk about the joy of the consecrated life. And today, our topic is the spirituality of the little way. Sister Clarice, please, can you tell us, tell our listeners, tell our audience what this whole spirituality of the little way is?
Thank you very much, Sister Florence. I am glad to share with you the spirituality that is lived by the Sisters of Saint Therese. And before I go on, I'd just like to clarify a little bit between, sometimes we are confused between what is spirituality and the charism. I'd just like to clarify here that the spirituality is an aspect of the charism of a congregation, because the charism of a congregation answers three questions. The charism of a congregation answers why the congregation was founded. And on a second note, it answers what that congregation does as mission. And lastly, it answers how that congregation lives out that mission. So the spirituality that we are talking about, it is the how. If there is a word like the howness, we are looking at the manner in which the Sisters of Saint Therese live and carry out the reason for which they were founded, and the missions, the specific mission that they do as Sisters of Saint Therese. And we are very blessed as a congregation of Sisters of Saint Therese that we are living a dual spirituality. The spirituality of the little way, which is a product of Saint Therese of Lisieux, and also the spirituality of our founder. So I would go to highlight the spirituality of the little way, a product of Saint Therese, of her reflections. Saint Therese of the Child Jesus, growing up, had this great desire to become a saint right from the time she was a child. And as she grew up and wanted this desire to come to life, she realized that left to herself, she couldn't do this all alone. And so she went, because she was so much engrossed in scriptures, that she had been formed to reflect on the scriptures by her family from the time she was a child. She was able to pick her inspiration from Proverbs chapter 9, verse 4. And that chapter from that verse of Proverbs chapter 9, verse 4 encourages and talks about the joy of being little. And reflecting further, to be able to find a way to become a saint, because Saint Therese looked at the lives of other saints and she thought these lives were too austere. These saints did so many great things and some very difficult things to become saints. And looking at herself and her weakness, she said to herself, I cannot be able to do all these things the way these other big saints are doing, but yet I have the desire. And so going back again to scripture, she was able to pick on Isaiah chapter 66, and from Isaiah chapter 66, she picked the verse that invites us to be able to surrender ourselves into the hands of God, just like a child would surrender herself into the hands of a mother. Surrender yourself and let God do whatever. And from the New Testament, she was able to pick from Matthew chapter 18, verse 3, that says, unless you become like a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of God. So these three verses informed her so much, and looking at her life and her desire to become a saint, not by going through the very difficult means that the others became saints, but just by going through the very ordinary things and doing the very ordinary things of life, conscious of the fact that she cannot do this by herself, and conscious of the fact that when she surrenders herself into God's hands, then God actually does that for her and not her doing it for God. And that is how she developed the spirituality of the little way, that when we put into words, it covers three words. It covers love, it covers humility, and it covers total trust and confidence in God. So that is what guided Saint Therese and brought her to the point where she said, instead of going through steps to become a saint, steps which are tedious to climb, I can use an elevator. And that using of an elevator is simply by loving God to the fullest of my capacity, and in humility, surrendering myself into God's hands like a little child. I think we are all aware of the fact that children just leave themselves. They trust and they just let themselves be and let themselves be tossed around. And that is what guided Saint Therese and brought her to this point where she developed the spirituality of the little way, which the Sisters of Saint Therese do live today. And like I said before, we are lucky that we have a dual spirituality which we exercise, because we have a patron saint who is Saint Therese, and who is the mother of the spirituality of the Little Way. And at the same time, we have a founder, Bishop Jules Peters of blessed memory, who handed his own spirit to us. So we combine the spirituality of the Little Way and the spirituality of our founder, which he took from the Gospel of John, chapter 17, verse 21. And that was his coat of arms, that all may be one. Our founder so much valued unity that he handed that over to us as part of his spirit, as part of his spirituality, which we as Sisters of Saint Therese combined with the spirituality of the Little Way. So if you were to ask us, or if you were to look at us and ask what is that spirituality that we live, and we're going to give you 4 words to be able to express our spirituality in the best way possible, we are going to tell you of the spirituality of the Little Way, which is love, humility, total trust and confidence in God, and that from our founder, which is unity. I think in summary form, that is the best expression I can give of the spirituality of the spirituality of the Little Way and that of our founder, the spirituality that the Sisters of Saint Therese live, dual, that of our founder and that of our patron saint, Saint Therese of the Child Jesus.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sister Clarice. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you heard that all. Dual spirituality, that of the founder and that of the patron saint. But I want to ask you again, Sister Clarice. Saint Therese was a Carmelite nun. So I was expecting that if your congregation would have been following the spirituality of your patron saint, this Carmelite spirituality and all whatnot. But you've given a good analysis of what this spirituality is all about. Is there any link or connection? Do you find something which you pick up? Because whatever Saint Therese was doing, she was informed by the spirituality which she embedded when she came to our congregation. Sure. So do you, for any reason, have any connection with the Carmelite spirituality, not congregations now? Or is there anything about Saint Therese as a Carmelite which influences the Sisters of Saint Therese?
Thank you very much, Sister Florence. I think one of the things that I said was the fact that Saint Therese anchored her inspirations so much came from scripture, and that already draws us to the fact that she was a contemplative and very contemplative and very contemplative herself, and she also imbibed and was very much inspired by another Carmelite, Saint Therese of
Lisieux.
No, not Saint Therese of Lisieux.
Avila.
Saint Therese of Avila. That was her great inspiration as well. So from the Carmelite spirituality, what we take, contemplation is very important, because for us that in our constitution is very clear. That hour of adoration and all, contemplate before you go into action. So if anything of the Carmelite spirituality that we take as Sisters of Saint Therese is the whole aspect of contemplation.
Thank you, Sister. I'll turn to you, Sister Christabel. Can you tell us how is this spirituality practically lived by those? This time now we're not talking about sisters, by those who have the spirituality of the Little Way. Because later I'll ask a question, you will have to tell me the number of people who do this. But then, how is that practically lived? Those who live the spirituality of the Little Way.
Sister,
Okay.
that I'll take on that. How we, the Sisters of Saint Therese, live out this spirituality practically, and being aware of the fact that we follow the spirituality of Saint Therese and the spirituality of our founder. We hold to high esteem this aspect of Saint Therese doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. For example, we have different apostolates, and Sisters of Saint Therese, we are not permitted or to say I would prefer a particular apostolate. Let's say you say no, I would not like to work in school, I would prefer to work in the hospital, I want to be a classroom teacher, or I prefer to be a principal instead of a classroom teacher. No, as a Sister of Saint Therese, we are open to whatever apostolate that is entrusted to you, and whatever apostolate that is entrusted to you, you give in your utmost best. You put in all your energy to it. Whatever you are doing, you give in that touch of Saint Therese in such a way that while I was there even during formation, when a task is being entrusted to you, you will always hear the mistress saying that I want to see a Theresian touch, because that is being imbibed in the during formation, so that when you go through formation, you already know how to give in that touch, no matter the task that is being assigned, whether you are mopping the floor, whether you are in charge of the kitchen, you give in that Theresian touch. So we do ordinary things extraordinarily well, as we tap from Saint Therese. That is how we give it out. And also the aspect of putting everything, wanting to foster that unity. You will not see a sister of Saint Therese speaking the dialect to a fellow sister. Maybe you go to a community while they are sitting at table, even if they are relaxing, you will never hear them speaking a dialect in such a way that maybe another person feels that he or she is being left out. So we always make sure that the common language, English or French, or if it is that you are in a community where they are speaking Spanish, and you have to make sure that you are one with each and everyone around you. So there is nothing that we try to foster that unity. And also the aspect of hospitality. When you come to any community where a sister of Saint Therese is, you will really enjoy. In fact, even if you had plans to stay for a day, you may want to stay even for a week, because that aspect of hospitality is very, very strong in the community of the Sisters of Saint Therese. And also one of the aspects which the founder handed over to us was the aspect of unity, which is very strong. And even in our constitution, it's been stated clearly, if two sisters cannot live together for any reason, then they have to go home. Meaning that we should struggle by any means possible to foster that unity, and we struggle by all means to put that into practice, no matter how challenging it may be. But we try to see that that aspect is being uplifted as much as we can. So that is how we practically live out this aspect of our spirituality, the little way of Saint Therese, and the spirituality handed on by Bishop Jos Peters, our founder. Thank you, sister.
Yeah, thank you, sister, for that explanation. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a musical break, and when we come back, we'll talk about other aspects. Nothing.
Seigneur s'est penché sur sa servante. Désormais tout le peuple me louera. J'ai donné le sauvera à notre monde. Le Seigneur m'a choisi depuis toujours. Que son nom soit béni dans tous les siècles. Son amour va de même chaque jour à tous ceux qui écoutent sa parole, déployant la puissance de son bras, qui rejette tout homme que sur terre.
Welcome, dear brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. If you are just joining us, we've been discussing about the spirituality of the little way. Now, I turn to you, Sister Christabel. Krista. How can others practically live this life? But before we even ask you to answer how others will live it, I want to find out, are there other congregations that live the spirituality of the little way? You answer that. And one other question will come before you now begin to tell us how they can live.
Thank you, sister. There are many people who follow the spirituality of Saint Therese. They are individuals, and we even have groups that follow the spirituality of Saint Therese. We call them the Little Way group. They follow the spirituality, and they are individuals. In fact, so many people enjoy it, and they follow the spirituality of Saint Therese. And when Saint Therese was the novice mistress, she told her novices that if she dies and goes to heaven and realizes that this her way wasn't good, she will not hesitate to come back and tell them to stop practicing it. Lucky enough, when she died, she appeared to the prowess of the Carmelite convent in Gallipoli in Italy on the 16th of January 1910, and she said to her, "My way was right. I was not misguided in following it." This her way that she's talking about is radically very simple. The Theresian spirituality is simple, and anybody in any state of life can follow it. Simply, how do you take care of the children? You back home as a housewife. How do you take care of the house? How do you sweep as a child? How do you smile at somebody? How do you talk to somebody? That is why we say it is radically very, very simple to live the Theresian spirituality. The way she prayed, Saint Therese believed that at any moment, putting God first, and at any time in whatever she was doing, she was praying. It's not a matter of abandoning things, because at times we say we are very busy in the things we are doing and we don't have time to pray. Therese will not feel like she must sit somewhere to pray. She prayed as she worked. This mental prayer, Jesus, I love you. There are at times I will face moments of dryness in life, and at such moments she will say, when she feels dry and she cannot pray, she will simply say, Jesus, I love you. Jesus, I love you. Rather than trying to do what maybe at that point, we all know when you are spiritually dry at that time, many things do not move you. She will simply say, Jesus, I love you. The Theresian spirituality, how do you practice it in your office? The way you treat your colleagues, trying not to dominate others in the way you do things, sacrificing for others without letting others know about it, treating people with kindness, the way you behave, the way you talk to people, the way you go along in your daily activities, knowing that the way you treat the next person is God you are treating. We see this when we read the story of a soul, her autobiography that's written by herself. We'll see a lot of things that she did, a lot of encounters that she had, even with her fellow sisters in community. You see an incident where Therese apologized even when she did not commit a crime. That is the Theresian spirituality we're talking about here. Being able to say, I am sorry, to let peace reign, to be able to be united with others, even when you are not the one at fault. Praying for those you know that need your prayers, and for those who feel do not even need it, because at times the tendency is when somebody annoys you, you say you not pray for this person, but you pray for those people that is following the way Therese did it. In humility, you acknowledge your fault. I am sorry. Even when you, at times you say that I am sorry to let peace reign. In humility, you are able to accept corrections. Yes, what you are saying is right. In offices, at times there are a lot of problems because somebody does something which is very wrong, and then the next person is trying to correct, and you are, no, it is right, it is right, it is right. But following the Theresian spirituality, trying to live like Saint Therese, who did just very little things. At times, somebody corrects you, and then you say, thank you for this correction, and you try to see how to accept it and to move on with the correction. Those are just the very little things that Therese did. Accepting suffering with joy. She accepted suffering. At times, she will tell us that when you trust that God brings good even out of the smallest thing, you are able to accept that suffering, not only accepting, but accepting it with a smile.
Thank you, sister. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you heard it all. Now, the most exciting thing is that this Teresian spirituality, the spirituality of the little way, can be lived by anybody. But I want to assure you, because I know you are there with your pen and paper, when you ask us if you feel like, living this kind of spirituality, write to us and we direct you to the Sisters of St. Teresa who are living it in practice every day of their life. I thank you, dear brothers and sisters, that you have been with us today, and it will soon be a time for lunch, and I know you have had a grace-filled afternoon. Thank you for always being there. I promise that next week we're going to have another spirituality which you want to have. I thank you, sisters, Sister Clarice, Sister Scholastica, Sister Christabel, Sister Christabel, Sister Krista, Monique, for being in this program and doing justice to this topic. Dear brothers and sisters, before we go, having handled such a beautiful topic like this, I'm sure the sisters will want to give us a piece of music to usher us to our lunch table as we celebrate the remaining part of Sunday. Thank you for always being there. See you next week.